Hello and welcome to Good Day Talks. Happy 3/16/22. Today I'm just going to talk briefly about the politicians and something we should really start to talk about, which is defunding our politicians. There's way too much money involved in the game, and it really removes anybody who has an idea or someone who actually wants to benefit the public that actually elected them. It just takes way too much money to get even elected, and therein lies some of the biggest issues and hurdles that we run into. But today I just want to talk a little bit. You can actually spend hours and hours and days upon days talking about how corrupt our politicians are and about how they've kind of screwed the people from the beginning. But today we'll start off with, in the very beginning, this is something that I was curious about when the market crashed in March 2020, when COVID happened and they shut down the United States especially, but also the world. And it seemed like a lot of politicians started making money, but yet the people lost a bunch of money in the market. So in the beginning, and all of my links are going to be in the description, but I'll read the top part here, which is the 2020 Congressional Insider Trading Scandal. The 2020 Congressional Insider Trading Scandal was a political scandal in the United States involving allegations that several members of the United States Senate violated the Stock Act for selling stocks at the start of COVID-19 pandemic in the United States and just before a stock market crash on February 20th, 2020, using knowledge given to them at the closed Senate meeting. The Department of Justice initiated a probe into the stock transactions on March 30th, 2020. No charges were brought against anyone, and all investigations into the matter are closed. So, Department of Justice, did they do their job? Did they actually find justice? No, because as we know, Nancy Pelosi made millions of dollars, and on top of that, this is just a quick meme that I found, which is great. This was sent to me a while back. How is this inside trading handled fairly? Martha Stewart sold $230,000 in shares, gets 5 months in prison. Now, Kelly Loeffler sold $3.1 million in shares, never charged, and was still a Republican. Now she's no longer in office, I think because of the allegations against her. However, something that I still think we need to look further into, because there's no way that these politicians, after making the money they're making, which is more than the average salary of a normal American citizen, and then on top of that, they get the insider trading knowledge of when they're going to shut things down, when they've got good programs going to certain companies. So there's lots of different questions we could probably ask about them, and no one really seems to be doing it. Or at least, not the media anyway. Then after that, political action committees, or PACs. So these are something, there's a couple different good documentaries out there that you can watch about PACs and Super PACs. So the political action committee then is going to fund politicians and different groups. So the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, whatever the case may be, they have certain limits to the amount that you could actually put into a PAC or a political action committee, up to $5,000 per individual per year. Now, a Super PAC allows either individuals or corporations to, an unlimited amount of money, to be able to put into these groups to then fund different campaigns, think about all the different dining events, all the different political events that you see over the years. They're primarily going to be funded by the Super PACs that have millions and millions of dollars and billions of dollars actually being funded into them. The next graph then here is going to show, and again, everything is going to be in my description, but this year's 2014, 2016, 2018, 2020, and 2022, and I'm just going to read the total spends for the Super PACs, not what they actually raised. But in 2014, $345 million was spent. In 2016, over $1 billion was spent. In 2018, almost $1 billion, $822 million were spent. And then in 2020, over $2 billion were spent on political advertisement and meetings and dinners and all different types of different plans that all of our politicians didn't have to pay for themselves. It came out of the Super PAC. And then so far this year, they've already spent $82 million and raised over $776 million for that same expense. This right here is for 2020. This is just the Democratic Party. This is the top 13. So there's more that actually spent more money, but just the top 13 spent $876 million to try to get people to vote Democratic. That's essentially what it comes down to. Now, the Republicans are just as bad. They spend millions of dollars also on just trying to coerce people to vote differently, okay? And that's all that this money is being spent to do. It's to try to make you think differently and vote differently based on either the experience you had or whatever the case is. Nothing to do with the actual policies that these people are putting into place or the actual policies that these people stand for. And that's something that needs to change. We need to take the money out of our politics. It needs to happen. We can't have fair elections without money being removed from there, because say you're an individual and you want somebody to do something for you, you put in your money, but guess what? They just had a corporation give them $1 million versus your $3,000 or $5,000 that you put in there at your limit. Oh, guess what? They're not going to help you. They're going to help out the corporation that gave them millions of dollars. And therefore, you've kind of seen that happen over the past, at least over the past 10 years. What's funny then is Obama, when he was originally campaigning, was against the Super PACs, but then kind of switched scripts. So I'm going to play you a quick video of that one. So here you go.
Back in January, in my State of the Union address, I warned of the danger posed by a Supreme Court ruling called Citizens United, a decision that now allows big corporations to spend unlimited amounts of money to influence our elections.
All across America, special interests have poured millions of dollars into phony front groups. You've seen them. At a time of such challenge for America, we can't afford these political games.
And what is at stake is no less than the integrity of our democracy.
Because in a democracy, powerful interests must not be allowed to drown out the voices of ordinary citizens.
And as long as I'm your president, I'll never stop fighting to make sure that the most powerful voice in Washington belongs to you.
Fox News alert on an about face for President Obama.
President Obama is actually reversing course. The president seems to be having a change of heart.
Asking his top fundraisers to
embrace the pro-Obama Super PAC.
Obviously on record for standing up against Super PACs.
Think of the sad commentary on where we are.
The Obama campaign says it doesn't want to fight with one hand tied behind its back.
I have a soft spot. This is part of a pattern of behavior with Barack Obama that goes back to 2008.
When he opted out of public financing in the 2008 cycle and went on to raise more than anyone had ever raised.
The president's going to continue to fight for ways to reform that system in the future. But
you don't get to change the rules if you're not in control of the car.
We can't unilaterally disarm. We have to operate our campaign under the rules that exist right now.
Would I love to take some of the big money out of politics? I would.
This campaign is making a decision that the rules are what they are, and they cannot play by a different set of rules.
It may mean more money, but will it brand him as a hypocrite?
I don't think anybody's really going to care. They're more concerned about jobs, the economy, and things like that.
And so, yeah, change the script, because big money pays and big money helps you. So obviously, they're going to go along the scheme of big money. They're not here to help us. They're here to just take advantage of us. That's really all the politicians ever have done, at least over the past, all of my life, I'll say. After that, then, we need to have term limits for Congress. Congress can't just be in power forever. First person on the list, then, is going to be Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi has been in office since I was born, 1987. You think she's changed her tune after having so many millions of dollars over the years? You think she still cares about the normal people, or you think she's just living life pretty well and has an elitist attitude? Quite possibly. Then also Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is Republican. He's been in there since 2003. So he's been in there for about 20 years now, And as of right now, he's calling for the assassination of Putin, our politician, democratically elected politician that's supposed to uphold our laws and rules, doesn't believe in trials, doesn't believe in due process, believes in assassination of other presidents and dictators out there. Let's get serious for a second. Remember what you actually signed up for here, the American people. And then the last one then is Joe Biden. Joe Biden was actually a senator for 36 years before now becoming president. So again, we need to have term limits. We can't have these people just collecting money and money and money on top of that, on top of money for years and years and years. We need to have fresh faces in there. We need to have people who actually care about what's going on in the normal, everyday lives of Americans. We're the people that vote these people into power. There's no reason they should be taking advantage of us the way that they are. So, next then is the average age. So the average age of the U.S. resident is about 38 years old. The average age in Congress is about 68 years old. Senators are obviously older, but the average still is going to be about 68 years old for everybody there. There's a huge gap. So essentially what's happening is majority of America would be being told by their parents what to do next. So we need to have a closer gap. I'd say if we had people a little bit closer, not 30 years apart, because when you're 68, you have different priorities than when you're 38. There's a big gap there, and we need to reduce that gap. And I think having term limits may help reduce that gap. Next on from there then is going to be talking about Joe Biden's and when Joe Biden went into office, one of his first things that he did was he killed the XL pipeline. I know gas prices right now are going nuts. I've got the charts here coming up after that. But Biden suspends oil and gas leasing and slew of executive actions on climate change. This was on January 27th, so right when he went into office. With a pen stroke, President Joe Biden cancels Keystone XL pipeline and cancels new drilling that just recently happened. And then the last one here is it's actually about 8%. So this article from Barron's explains it's about 8% of the oil and gas that we're getting right now is from Russia. So for them to claim that this big, huge hike is from the Russian invasion, it's not 100% true. It's not. There is some validity behind it. There is some truth that whenever anything happens, energy prices do go up. That's true. Whenever conflicts and wars happen, energy prices go up. However, I'll show you the graphs coming up. You'll like it. You'll really appreciate it, I think. So this is actually the table here. So from 1950 all the way to January 2022. And so if you look 1950, obviously there was no unleaded gas. But when they first initiated unleaded gas in 85, it was $1.24. And you can see going through the runs here, 2019, the average was $2.63. In 2020, the average was $2.17. And then in 2021, the average jumped all the way to $3.05, where if you notice here, towards the last few months, $3.38, $3.48, $3.40. And then in January of 2022, the average was $3.41. Now, if you want to take a look even further, this is from current week, which this is an article from last week where it said the national average surged $4.17. Now it's $4.31. $4.31. 2 years ago we were at $2. It's gone up $2. Over the past 2 years, I mean, Putin hasn't been going to war with Ukraine for the past 2 years. It hasn't been that long. So there's something else going on. But if you want to hear what our politicians are telling us right now, here's a quick little clip.
We have noticed this week that your gas prices have gone up. I want to talk to you a little bit about why. A lot of it has to do with Vladimir Putin.
You need to be honest with the American people. The battle for freedom has its cost here at home as well. People are already feeling Putin's price hikes at the pump.
The larger issue about Putin's tax. That's really Putin's gas hike. That's his gas hike. So much of this increase in the gas tax, gas price started weeks leading up to what happened there.
Do you hear her? She can't even lie properly. She should have a script before she comes out in front of people if she's going to try to just lie on her. She just can't do it anymore. She's been in power for too long. She's losing her mind. So outside of that, though, there's one more person that we should probably discuss a little bit about. This is the second person in power, which is our vice president. Now, the first question here that you're going to get, I made a little montage. There's 3 different videos I kind of clipped out and put together. This first one here, the first question that she's going to get is based on Ukrainian refugees. Will the United States be looking to make any additional space for Ukrainian refugees? And this is how she actually responds. So, Vice President Kamala Harris.
States to specifically accept more refugees.
Okay. A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Okay, I can first. Okay, so this time.
I can ask you, Madam Vice President. President Biden has said that Americans will feel some pain for the sake of defending freedom and liberty, but there does seem to be no end game in sight. How long should Americans expect? How long should we be bracing for this really sort of historic inflation and some unprecedented gas prices?
Sure. In terms of the discussions that the President, Johannes, and I had, they ranged in subject, including the issue of the Black Sea, and I'll let him explain in more detail as he would like. But we are, again, fully aware and apprised, because we are in constant communication with the President, with his administration here, about the concerns that they have about the entire region and, frankly, the vulnerability. All you have to do is look at the map.
Break it down in layman's terms for people who don't understand what's going on and how can this directly affect the people of the United States.
So Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia.
We campaign with the plan. Uppercase T, uppercase P. The plan.
Do you have plans to visit the border?
Not today. But I have before, and I'm sure I will again.
I've said I'm going to go to the border. And when are you going to the border, Vice President?
The administration has asked. I'm not finished. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
I'm being clear with you right now.
Yes, okay.
And so if you're interested, I'll continue to be clear. There are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't, there's no Kinko's, there's no Office Max near them. It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. We are doing it.
But should we have done it sooner?
We are doing it.
What do you see as the biggest national security challenge confronting the U.S.? What is the thing that worries you and keeps you up at night?
Frankly, one of them is our democracy.
You don't feel misused or underused?
No, I don't. When folks vote, they order what they want, and in this case, they got what they asked for. I went off script a little bit.
And so my favorite part of that whole clip, though, is going to be the one where she's in Poland and asking, the journalist asked the question about how long Americans are going to be looking to bite the bullet on the soaring gas prices, and she doesn't even answer at all. She just wasn't even paying attention to the question. It's like we interrupted her thought pattern, or we interrupted whatever she was listening to in her ear. And so she just went, read whatever notes were in front of her. The whole thing's a joke. These are our politicians. These are the people that we elected, that we put in power to govern us. Are we out of our mind? Like, I'm not sure. But then this here's a quick clip. This is Ned Ryun. He was on Tucker Carlson today, or Tucker Carlson tonight, for when the president was actually doing his presidential address. The clip, I could have probably made it shorter, but I honestly think the whole thing is worth listening to. And so here you go on this one.
Biden approach to all of this is, let's increase our energy prices while making us less energy dependent. There are no real solutions to the American people in any of these plans.
Well, especially since, as you point out in your first sentence, the Fed has driven so much of this. I mean, they've printed so much money that we're at like Scrooge McDuck phase, where we're just like rolling around a swimming pool full of dollars, which by definition are worth less. So why doesn't anyone ever say that?
No, I mean, it's all monetary policy, as Friedman so famously said, but it's essentially we've been throwing free money out of helicopters, keeping interest rate arbitrarily low. 1.9 trillion on the COVID relief plan, and all of a sudden, people are going, how did this happen? Well, it's pretty obvious how it happened. They have no solutions. How
did this happen?
But I keep on going back, Tucker, I'm conflicted. Is this a clown show led by an imbecile? Or is it, if you truly hate America, would you do anything differently? I mean, truly, would you do anything differently
Well,
if you
I know
truly hated the
Susan
country?
Rice personally. She's not an imbecile. Whatever you think of Susan Rice, she's not stupid. So she's the head of domestic
Has to be
policy.
intentional then.
Well, it does sort of seem that way. I wonder, like, in the end, and I think people are upset. I'm upset watching the images out of Ukraine. I mean, they're horrible, and watching civilians suffer, which is always a byproduct of every war, no matter what they lie to you. Right. That's true. However, you got to think, like, over time, like maybe next week, people are going to say, yeah, that's so sad. Not sure we can fix it. But what about our country? When does that start to reemerge?
I mean, that's the whole reason why Donald Trump won in the first place. Because somebody actually stood up and said, we should probably focus on the American people. The American people first and last in all things. And I think our ruling class, this establishment, has decided we don't really care.
They don't care.
The American people are not a priority for this ruling class on any level, whether it's on energy policy, whether it's trade, whether it's immigration, whether it's foreign policy. It's an afterthought at best, the American people.
So when Roger Wicker, the senator from Tennessee, stands up and was like, let's have a hot war with Russia.
It's absolutely insane.
I think what you're really telling me is I don't care about this country at all.
No, and you can see this, and the ruling class, when I say that, it's both Republicans and Democrats.
Oh, I couldn't
have
agree more.
completely lost contact with the priorities of the American people. The whole premise of the American Republic was to prioritize the American people first and last in all things, and now they're an afterthought. And until the America First types, I think, get back into control with a common sense approach on all fronts, energy, immigration, I think you're going to see more of these trends where the American people are going to be massively abused by these policies.
Yeah, because it wouldn't take anything radical at all.
No, it's common sense.
Right.
You're going to see a rise of common sense. I think the American people have had enough.
And I think that's a true statement. I think a lot of people out there have had enough. I know I personally have had enough. This is getting absolutely ridiculous. We need to start looking at America first. We can look at everybody else afterwards, but we have to start looking and taking care of the people that are here. This is our country. This is the United States of America. We need to get back to the freedom-loving people that we were before. Then, after we get everybody here in better states, then we can assist anybody else. We can help everybody, hopefully like we used to, which is more humanitarian aid. Because here comes the next thing then, is countries currently at war. There are a ton of countries actually currently at war that we only seem to be talking about Ukraine, which I don't understand 100% why we're only talking about Ukraine. Just quick top 4 that are still going on. Afghanistan, which we just left and made bigger disaster out of probably what we could have. They have a civil war and a terrorist insurgency going on. Ethiopia has a civil war going on. Yemen has a civil war going on. Mexico, which, if you didn't know where Mexico was, is closest to America, has a drug war going on. There's still a bunch of there's a lot of other civil wars. There's a lot of other death and casualties going on in all these other countries as well. And these are all certain things that we should take a look at. But we can go help in Mexico right away. They're right across the border that we actually have all open. But these aren't things we're talking about in the media. All we're talking about is Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. So what's happening in Ukraine is terrible. There's no reason for war anywhere. Today we shouldn't be having war at all. We should honestly have diplomatic procedures for everything now. We should be talking through things. There's an answer for most of everything out there, and I think if we actually have the right people in power and the right people talking, we can get to those conclusions and those solutions. So moving from there then is we just passed during with our government funding bill $13.6 billion in pretty much just military aid for Ukraine. So we're going to send them missiles, ammunition, and weapons. Okay. So there used to be a time when we primarily focused on humanitarian aid. We focused on food, housing, and medicine for people so that way they could survive. And I just did a quick check because one thing I'm still a firm believer of is ending hunger. We should, in today's day, it's 2022, hunger shouldn't be a thing. But yet, 9 million people die every year from hunger. That's ridiculous. That shouldn't be. More than 5.7 million children under 5 on the brink of starvation across the world. Why is this? Why are our children being, of all things, our children should be the ones that we should be elevating above everybody else. Our kids around the world shouldn't be going hungry. They shouldn't be. And then also there's another study that I saw recently, I don't have it listed here, but COVID-19 pushed another 45 million people into hunger and starvation, into poverty. This is a problem as well. COVID-19 was a terrible thing that happened, but we spend billions of dollars and trillions of dollars for COVID-19, but yet everyone's still hungry. There's still a homeless pandemic here in America. There's a drug pandemic here in America. There's a suicide pandemic here in America. We need to start focusing on America again. We need to start putting our energy behind making our country better. We need to get everybody back on the same page. And then the last one is 10 facts about child hunger around the world. And it's just terrible. There's so many different things that we could be doing instead of just blowing money on guns and ammunition, and then also blowing money and trying to sway people's opinion on voting. There's more to life than voting in an election. There's more to life than one solitary war that's going on where we don't really have that much involved. The only people that, and there's a different story out there also, which is information, it is news about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden actually getting money from Ukraine, and the administration, different people in the administration getting money from Ukraine. Now, is this why we're going to war with Ukraine? Is this why we're putting Ukraine at the top to where everyone needs to focus on that? Also, just look at the misdirection they're doing. What happened to COVID? Why is COVID not being talked about anymore? One other interesting thing is in China, COVID has plagued the factory towns, so there will be less shipments of your goods coming to you really soon. Next from there then, we must get back to communion. We need to start taking care of our people, and it needs to happen from neighbor to neighbor. And this right here is a great example of that. This is Dan, who was actually on Tucker Carlson today, recently the other day. I love his hoodie. Actually, I bought a shirt or two, so I'll get those coming up here soon also. But this is a great little clip. It's a little over a minute, but I think you'll like this also. It kind of explains where we need to start focusing our attention. So here you go.
And that was the point of leaving the government in the first place. And it's one of the things that Evan Haver, the CEO of Black Rifle, talks about a lot. It's like emancipate yourself from the needs of the government, or I'm sorry, from the government in general. And that's what I tell people all the time now. It's one of the lessons that I learned, that transition, is that you're not going to defeat the government at the ballot box, in my opinion. I'm not saying don't go vote, but the best way to defeat overreaching government is to box them out. Like if your neighbor needs help, help your neighbor. Because what's the famous line from Reagan, like the scariest words in the English language?
I'm from the government,
yeah.
I'm here to help you.
Yeah. But, you know, your buddy coming to help you or your neighbor, that's a whole different situation. And I kind of, it almost seemed like game theory or market economics to me. Like if we can do enough, the government will have to stay out of here. And that's one of the things that I've preached to people quite a bit. Like don't rely on your captor to release you. You have to do something for yourself at some point.
Exactly. We all need to start focusing on what things we can do to better our community. We need to start looking at, is there an extra donations you can do for food? Is there food in your pantry that can go to a food pantry to help out people who are actually starving? Is there something you can do to actually just help someone down the street? There's other things that are happening on a regular basis that we don't need government to help. Big government is never the answer. Small government is the answer, with people, with a community of people getting together and actually taking care of whatever they need themselves. We need to have politicians not be involved in the everyday, in they're trying to help, because as we see, every time they try to help, they make it worse, and then it just costs us money. So we don't need their assistance anymore. They need to just relax, maybe try to pass some things for the people if they can. But if not, term limits and we can kick them out. So this is something we need to start looking at. We need to start getting back to communion. People are, and think about also the other benefit you'll have from actually helping somebody. You do get a great benefit. You feel the energy that you actually helped somebody, and it's a real thing, as opposed to just virtue signaling on Twitter that you just destroyed somebody's life. So after that, then, I just have a quick note. I want to thank you for spending the time here today. I tried to make it quick because I know I could honestly go on for too long talking about politicians and the different things that they've done to us. But this is just a quick note. Tulsi Gabbard, she was on Tucker Carlson tonight, same as Ned Ryun on the same day. But this is a quick message for everybody. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you have a good day.
To close this out, what advice would you give to our viewers who have sincere questions about where we're going when they are denounced as traitors to their country?
Keep asking questions and keep exercising your right to free speech. If we do not take a stand and speak up now for our freedoms, for each other, our country, and our security, then we are at risk of losing it forever.